Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 38 of the Mind Blown Zone. This episode is titled, What is the Matrix? Here with Brad. How you doing, Brad?
Never better as usual. And how about yourself?
Well, super excited because I understand that you're about to drop some info that you haven't even told me. So
A
I'm
little
really
bit.
keen.
Yeah, we'll get some organic Matt responses here at the end. So looking forward to that.
All right, I'm going to voice a breathtaking bumper script right now. Here it comes. The Matrix is a near perfect analogy for the spiritual journey. Neo is you, the one looking for something, but you're not sure quite what that is just yet. Trinity is Neo's ticket to going deeper, the bridge between your current reality and knowing the Matrix. Agent Smith is the dark forces, the ones who want to keep you asleep. Morpheus is the mystical character of another realm with all your answers, though there's a question unanswered. What is the Matrix? In the movie, it's the computer simulation of the world. But in our reality, right here, right now, what is the Matrix? Stay tuned for the mind blowing episode of the Mind Blown Zone as we reveal an answer you've been seeking all your life. What is the Matrix?
Dun dun dun. I couldn't help it.
You
I
excited,
told,
Kane?
yeah, I can't wait. I've been wanting to do this one for a while. So I think the timing is perfect. And this should get a lot of people thinking by the end of this one, or at least I hope so. We shall see. Let's give her a go. Shall we?
Yeah. So this started by you suggesting that it's a near perfect analogy for the spiritual journey. Do you want to give a bit of an intro to that before we get into the specifics and how they map over to our
Yeah.
reality?
I mean, to me, obviously I didn't see it like that back in 1999 or whenever the movie came out. It was just more of a cool, exciting, you know, shoot 'em up, bang 'em up, thrilling kind of movie. But over time, every year or two, I'd watch it again and get a little bit more out of it. After my 2008 wake up call with Hidden Hand, it obviously started to mean a lot more. But every time I watch it again, I've probably watched it 20 times now. I see a little bit more just about how nearly perfect the whole script was written and how close it matches what we think of as the spiritual journey, from the characters to the plot line to the things that are said. And you couldn't. It's of course it's not perfect, and there aren't agents morphing into bodies and chasing you, and you're not jumping across buildings and dodging bullets and all that. That of course is metaphor, but it's the idea in the movie that is what makes it so powerful, and it's why it's been such a popular movie and powerful, even if people don't realize this is what it's about. In my mind, it's the only thing that it could be about ultimately, and I have many doubts as to who wrote this original script and who gets credit for it today. I won't say any more on that, but whoever wrote that script, assuming it was one person, had it was far along the spiritual journey and knew how to translate it into an exciting, thrilling Hollywood feature blockbuster. So that's my quick take on the analogy slash metaphor that the Matrix is. Any thoughts?
It's impressive how they managed to do like a fun story. Like it's just you can watch it on that level. Like someone with no interest in spirituality whatsoever could totally enjoy that film. It's
Right.
amazing, so cool, love it, favorite film. Uh, and then there's just these layers and layers and layers. Like the more you go along your own journey, you can always go back and watch The Matrix like every few years and be like, oh yeah, I never saw it that way.
All right. Exactly. It's funny you make that point. One of the movie I used to look at the IMDb list back when that was a thing, or at least in my mind was a thing, like the most popular movies of all time. And I always thought it was strange that Shawshank Redemption was like top three. It was there and it stayed there. And I thought, no, it was a great movie, no doubt about it. But why does everybody love it, right? Young and old, male and
Yeah, I never
female.
understood that either.
It's also about the spiritual journey. We're not going to talk about that tonight, but that is precisely why it has that kind of deeper, more penetrating power, and why more and more people like it. They don't realize that's why they like it, but that's why they like it. Interesting. So there's some really good analyses out there on the internet of it, but effectively, that's what it is. So we're saying tonight that The Matrix is just such a movie, even though it's production value and star power and action-packed scenery was all what makes a great film in Hollywood. There's something deeper that makes it stick and last and remain popular over time, and this is it.
Hmm.
No question
Now,
about
one of
it.
the first ideas that people would get, like maybe what the Matrix is in our reality, is maybe we're also in a simulation. That's kind of the first one, right?
Yeah, and that's a very a growing popular idea that's being spread around. Let's say the truther community, right? Is that we're in a simulation, and I think more importantly, they're suggesting we're trapped in a simulation or a hologram, right? Some people use that term to say we're in some kind of a hologram. And with all things that have impact and staying power, it's not wrong, or I should say, it's not entirely wrong or entirely right what they're suggesting. But it depends on the bent of the researcher and the presenter as to which direction they take that, right? And we could go to somebody, say like Alex Jones. Of course, he's got the prison planet idea, which he's had for a long time, along with Infowars, and that suggestion that we are under the influence of powers beyond our recognition. And excuse me, and they're simulating this reality for us in such a way that we can't see our way out of it. And again, that has the conspiracy theory angle to it, and it's not, what he's saying isn't entirely wrong or entirely right either, but he's implying that there is some sort of a quote matrix that's keeping us docile and unaware and unconscious to what's really going on. And of course, his lifelong mission is to try to inform his viewers on what's really going on. So those were some popular ideas. I don't know, what are your thoughts on those, Matt?
Just the those ones seem like a projection of a fairly negative metaphysics. Like to, I always think that people's metaphysics are a projection of their deepest feelings about what this universe is and how they feel about it. And if you're going on about a prison planet, I mean, you must feel pretty trapped and stuck in life.
Right. And
Like
that's
you
kind
can't
of
have what you want.
and it's kind of that's kind of uh, portrayed in the film, right? Is that Neo's in trouble and he's got to hide and he's being secretive and people are chasing him, right? So it's kind of when you snap out of consensus reality for the first time, that's kind of what it feels like, right? Is that
Yeah. Yeah.
lot of people go down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole, myself, included to a huge degree, right? That's what got me to where I am, as I first started in those ideas. I just sensed and knew that something was wrong with what I had been taught and what most people around me believed. That just wasn't adding up for me. And your initial instinct is to just kind of freeze and hide, and you don't know which way to turn, right? If you don't have anybody that knows anything more, you're kind of stuck. Like, where do I start? And oftentimes it leads in this direction. So it's totally understandable why these people start talking about the simulation, and there's powers and forces beyond our recognition that are controlling it. Like I said, it's not entirely untrue and it's not entirely true. So as with all things, there's always a tinge. Truth and lies are always mixed together. So it's hard to just say, yeah, this is all right and this is all wrong. Usually it doesn't work that way. Yeah.
Mhm. And you've written down here that you wanted to mention some of the channels, YouTube channels that are, out
Yeah.
there dedicated to analyzing and breaking down the movie.
There's some great channels on YouTube that are literally dedicated to this movie or the series of
Yeah.
movies, right? I guess there's four now, and so they make hundreds of hours of content analyzing every little moment and aspect of all the different movies and what it means, and they have a lot of great analysis. I'm not even close to being critical of them. I just want to kind of make that point in that we're not going to attempt to do anything nearly as exhaustive as they are. We're just going to do the broad brushstrokes here tonight, and but hopefully get to the most salient points that lead to the the final reveal. That's the idea with this
There's a good
podcast.
one called The Matrix Explained. It's called Matrix Explained. That's a good channel that I've seen many
Yeah.
times.
Yeah. I've seen some of those videos for sure. So yeah, there's a bunch of good ones out there. For those that want to go down to the minutia and fine detail, there's some fun channels to check out on YouTube for sure.
Okie dokie. So I guess we're going to get into the meat of this. Anything you want to say before we go there?
Now, take us away.
All right. So we're going to kind of step through this chronologically. We're going to start by the introduction of the characters, and we're going to talk about what each character kind of represents. We're going to go Neo, then Trinity, then Agent Smith, then Morpheus. We're going to mention the Oracle. And, after that, all the characters introduced, then there's some pretty serious events that take place in the film. We're going to look at what those events correspond to in life, and then the big ending is
The
going to
big
be
reveal.
just what is the Matrix? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Neo. I'll tell you what, Brad. I'll read off the little notes here, and just to set the stage for each one, and you can provide the bulk of the suggestion, the ideas, I guess. So
Great.
Neo, it's an anagram for one, isn't it? Neo, ONE. So Neo is the one, right? Now he's like not a normal guy. He's just from the very outset. He's one of those people that's on the fringe, right, of society. He's kind of outside of society. He's someone that's capable of looking at society rather than just being immersed in it. He's not a normie. And the thing is, he's looking for something. He's always had this feeling that something's not right, and he's just looking around for some sort of answer, but he doesn't even know what the question is. And he's in a very confused place, which is when we're introduced to him. You want to comment there, Brad?
Yeah, a lot of good points there. For those people who aren't terribly familiar with the characters, that's Keanu Reeves plays that role. If you don't know the characters, and yeah, I think it's set up in a way that he was once normal, right? A normie because he works in the big software company and he's got a great job and makes good money and wears a suit and tie to work. So there's this idea that he was once normal, which is basically what all of us were at some point. But when the story starts, when the movie starts, he's no longer fits into that, right? He's got this dark apartment and he's paranoid and worried about people knocking on his door, and right, so we're getting this picture that he's in that conspiracy theory phase in the beginning, right, where he knows things aren't right, but he doesn't know where to look. And it's a great setup for how the spiritual journey starts for a lot of people, myself included. So again, a near perfect analogy for when I in 2008, when I was after the hidden hand material, I was into bug out bags and guns and seeds and storing up food and canning and jarring foods, and that was where I was at. I was scared, and nobody, no friends or family members or any friends that I knew had any inkling of what I was suggesting. And and opening up the topic with them was usually brought ridicule, right? It was just, oh, come on, dude, you're get off of that conspiracy theory stuff. So you're kind of really alone when that door first opens. So in my mind, that those opening scenes are, the white rabbit scene in the club and so forth, are all pretty doggone perfect way to dramatize the feeling and the sense that you're in when that starts. So that's my take on Neo. Anything you'd like to add?
I guess I could relate to it because I had read so much of everything, just trying to understand. Like I always had this feeling like, what is this going on here? This is bizarre. Like this life seems absurd. Read a ton of philosophy, all this psychology, whatever, self
Right.
development. Like it was even at this point where I'd read everything I thought I could read. There are other stuff, but I'm sure I was just going to say similar to what I'd already read. I was just like, does anyone have any idea what's going on here?
Right. Right. Yeah. You do some Schopenhauer and some Nietzsche and some Plato and some Kant, and you're no
Yeah.
further along than you were, right? You're like, I'm more baffled and confused than ever before, right? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. You don't have the right
Literally,
questions.
exactly.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. So you're searching.
Do you want to comment more on Neo?
Nope. I think we got enough there for now.
Okay. So Trinity, you provided this info here. I thought it was pretty interesting. I was saying, what's Trinity? I can kind of get a feel from Morpheus is like the master, but Trinity is like this in between. So you said Trinity is the ticket to going deeper. You said Trinity is like a guru, a yogi, a swami, a Zen master, an interface or bridge between where Neo currently is and the Matrix. So she's seen the Matrix. All right, she's not at that like Morpheus level, but she's seen it enough to initiate uh, the one into learning about it.
Exactly. And it's perfectly portrayed in the film as well, right? She says, "I know what you're looking for," right? When they are in the bar, and she sees him and the White Rabbit and the whole 9 yards, right? She's saying, "I know what you're looking for, and I can take you to him," right? So the answer is portrayed as a man, Morpheus, in the movie, but it's obviously much larger than that. He's represents. Well, we'll get to what he represents. And Matt kind of wanted me to go into Trinity. It's a complex topic, all the more confusing and complicated by much of what kind of the mainstream Christianity tries to make of it. But obviously, the idea is three, right? That's the trine or triune Trinity. And I can give just a brief talk about the kind of the metaphysical aspect, right? There's two ways of looking at the Trinity. One is what the ultimate metaphysical Trinity is a perfect balance of love, wisdom, and power. So these are kind of like three flames or colors in metaphysical circles, right? You have to balance all three of those, right? If you're out of balance with one of those, then you're not a master, right? So you could say that the people that the controllers of this world are out of balance with power and wisdom, and have basically zero love, right? And some of the spiritual people are out of balance. They have a lot of love, but not so much wisdom and hardly any power, right? So you can see where these lack of balance is. That's the metaphysical Trinity. From a Christian standpoint, though, the feminine aspect was wiped out of Christianity at the Council of Nicaea and 325 AD on. But we can all see that it's really father, mother, and son, right? Or father, mother, and child, father, mother, and creation, right? Masculine, feminine, and creation. Those two things combine to form the creation or the creating, as Matt and I talked about a while ago. But that is what the Trinity once was in Christianity, was that masculine, feminine aspects combining to form a creation. And that's what the word Israel means. Israel, Isis, Ra, and then El is with God is the essence of that. And that's an Egyptian or Kemet idea that came from the Egyptians. But that's the Trinity: Mother, Father, and creation, or power, wisdom, and love. Any questions or comments, Matt? Deep stuff, right?
I'm enjoying it. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go
Yeah.
deeper on that someday.
We actually have a podcast coming called Esoteric Christianity. So I'm sure we're going to touch on it.
Yeah, we'll do a little there.
So how do you think that's related in the film, though? Like, okay, she's called Trinity. How does she embody those ideas that you just mentioned?
Well, she's reintroducing feminine energies and power in the film, right? She's what's missing in the popular Christian story. So you see, she's going to bring the feminine energy, and Morpheus is going to bring the masculine energy. Yeah.
No. Okay. And do you think, how about on people's spiritual journey? Like, how are you suggesting that they meet Trinity? Every person meets some version of Trinity, or it's more about, no, it's not about meeting a specific person. It's about coming into contact with and feeling that energy that Trinity represents. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah. So many women have too much feminine energy, not enough masculine. Many men have too much masculine and not enough feminine, right? So it's this balance, and it's not sexuality type energy, right? It's something much deeper than that. But it's a union of the left and right hemisphere of the brain. You can look at it that way. really
Is it a
represents
yin yang balancing?
its balance is the word. Yes. Balance is the right word.
And I specifically said, is it a yin yang balancing as well?
Yeah. That's you can use those two words to represent masculine
Okay.
and feminine.
All right. Okie dokie. Well, let's take a look at Agent Smith. Just to mention quickly here, I thought it's interesting that we're calling AI, let's say instances like that achieve certain tasks. We're calling them agents now. It's pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I got a bunch of agents working on that. So a computer program that achieves a task. I think I heard the CEO of OpenAI define it as. So pretty interesting overlap there. So we've got written down Agent Smith represents the dark forces, devil, Satan. So if you recall, the devil bargaining with Jesus, 40 nights in the desert, yeah, Buddha under the Bodhi tree for 40 nights fighting off temptresses. So Neo, so these forces and Agent Smith, they want Neo to go back to normal, right? Neo's this awakening, and Agent Smith is there to prevent awakening. And when Neo is really breaking free, when it actually looks like Neo is going to win, uh, he turns on the, let's say, heavy-handed or violent programs. What do you reckon about Agent
Precisely.
Smith, Brad?
Precisely. Well, first of all, it was a tremendous performance by an Australian actor, Hugo Weaving.
Oh,
Doesn't
he
get enough.
always crushes it.
He was awesome. The awesome bad guy. He couldn't have done it. No one could have done it better. Really enjoyed his performance. But yeah, this is the idea, right? That there is something preventing you from wanting to find the matrix or find your way out
Mm-hmm.
of the matrix as it's portrayed in the film. And it's well portrayed in the Bible. Jesus battling the devil, right? This is the heavy-handed part where he's got to take on what's portrayed as the final barrier, the devil. And in similar circumstances, we have Buddha under the Bodhi tree, where he has to fight off the seductresses and demons and temptresses that come after him to seduce him, to trick him, to try to get him to be greedy or lustful or whatever the so-called vices are that they represent. But all of these, they're all the same. They're all pointing at the same thing. We'll get into here in a little bit. That's Agent Smith's role, and obviously, the more Morpheus, or sorry, Neo comes out of it, the more they pursue him, right? When he goes through the removal process from his pod, and they start bringing him into the real world, right? That's when the violence and the chase ramps up. Try to get him reinserted into the Matrix, as they do with the Cypher character, who does so willingly. We won't be talking about him tonight. So yeah, that's Agent Smith's role. He's effectively Satan. Any questions or
Mm-hmm.
comments?
I've always seen this Agent Smith to be equivalent to whenever you say something to someone that presents um, an opportunity for them to look at something that could be true, that is kind of counter to the mainstream beliefs that they have. For example, if you said to someone, now viruses, have you actually ever seen one of these viruses that you seem to know exists? Boom, Agent Smith is there, right?
Right. Yeah. Right.
Well, no, I haven't personally seen one, but there are many experts who have seen it, and it's widely accepted in academic circles. Like that. That's Agent Smith. Okay.
Yeah, like a
When
disruptive
when
program
it,
or something, right?
yeah, yeah. It's just that it's just like floating around in the collective consciousness, and it just goes into them
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
expresses. It's like two two
Yeah.
two two two
Yeah.
block awakening at
Right.
all costs.
Right. Right. Yeah. Good analogy. I like it.
The one that's flat Earth that cracks me up all the time is, you see on social media people post just random flat Earth stuff, and then it's not even related, but people go, "Well, if the Earth's flat, why can't I see the Eiffel Tower in the
Yeah.
Empire State Building? Like,
Yeah. The
well,
quickie,
why don't you just have a think about that?
right?
There's always an
Yep.
excuse there, right? There's always like Agent Smith always comes to tell the person something that's let's say, anti truth seeking, anti awakening oriented.
Right. And it's an easy way out, right? It's a lot easier. The Agent Smith
Yeah.
explanation's so fast, simple, and easy compared to the reality
Mm,
or the truth of the matter, making it all the more
mm,
difficult.
right. It's always like, why don't you be Cypher right now to, take the steak? I'm like, yeah, I will have a steak. I love steak.
So juicy and delicious.
All right. Anything more to say on Agent Smith before we go to Morpheus?
No, let's get to the big guy.
Okay, I'm going to read all of this. So, Morpheus, the god of dream world and sleep world from Ovid's Metamorphosis. Just clarify before I go on, Brad, that was Ovid was a Greek author or playwright. What was it?
Yeah, both. Yeah, he was back in the BC era of Greece. He's a famous
Mm-hmm.
writer, playwright. I think that's what writers were back in those days,
Mm-hmm.
primarily. Yeah, it's a famous work that has stood the test of time. Kind of like
Okay,
Homer's Iliad and Odyssey falls into those ranks of classic literature.
radio. So, mystical character Neo has been looking for someone who is in a different realm outside the Matrix. Represents another realm that we can neither perceive nor cognize in our waking consciousness. Here's a quote from Morpheus on the Matrix. The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out of your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that is being pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. Neo says, what truth? Morpheus says that you're a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, into a prison that you cannot taste or see or touch, a prison for your mind.
Beautiful.
And the question is, to whom or what are you a slave to?
Yeah,
There's a
and
bit there. You want to unpack that?
that'll be our, what we'll reveal here in the end here. But you can obviously interpret what Morpheus is saying a lot of different ways, and I think most people have interpreted, from the conspiracy theorist angle, that we have enslavers here that are preventing us from seeing through what they're projecting, and we need to get them, and we need to fight them, and we need to take them away. And they're not entirely wrong. Again, not entirely wrong, but they're not entirely right either. But that, to me, that's the most important speech given by Morpheus in the film, and it's important because it isn't something tangible, right? The Matrix, right, isn't something that you can taste or touch, as he states, right? There's something else going on, so we have to break that down and look at it a little bit deeper here in the end. But that's why it's so tricky to even come to the conclusion that there is even such a thing as a matrix. And of course, it's easy for people who aren't looking and who think everything's fine and who think everything is normal. It's very easy for them to dismiss even the notion that there might be something called a matrix. All they have to say is, where is it? Show it to me. Take a picture of it. Give me a video of it. And when you can't do that, then it's unreal, not true, easily dismissed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wonder if we can just resolve a possible contradiction here. So it says, Morpheus is someone who is in a different realm outside the Matrix. So we wrote that, but we also wrote Morpheus represents another realm itself. So what is it? Is he someone in a different realm, like Saint Germain, or is he the energy of another realm, or is the another realm? What is it?
No, well, I mean, obviously he's in this, right? The people can't see them when they're moving about back inside the matrix, right? In the
Mm-hmm.
film, as it's portrayed, right? They come along and they're walking down the street, and Neo's bumping into everybody, and the lady in the red dress, right? So They're the real entities, and everything else is the matrix or the simulation, right? That's the
Mm-hmm.
idea that they're in this other realm, whatever you want to call it, and the thing that you once thought was real, right, is the simulation. But yeah, no, Morpheus doesn't represent the realm, right? More
Okay.
like an entity in that other realm,
Right.
and that's
This
his,
is almost like someone vibrating at a, you know, ultra high level that you just can't even kind of resonate
yeah,
with.
yeah, that'd be a very accurate way to look at it. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's a good way to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, in Ovid's Metamorphosis, it is the dream world. So, right, it's a real thing for us in the sense that we have experienced it, right? But it's nowhere we can like go on demand or taste or measure or touch, right? So it's like
Mm-hmm.
real, but not real.
Yeah.
Again, very well portrayed, in my opinion, in the film.
Did you want to mention something for, people, a lot of people listening probably on a spiritual journey that probably have these notions of meeting a mentor who is kind of like Morpheus to them. Would you want to describe what that's like or give any advice
Well,
or just
you know,
commentary
the
on that?
the classic statement across multiple, you know, I'll call advanced spiritual traditions is when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. It's a it's a 100% certainty.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody is on the journey, on the path and seeking with, genuine interest, then the right teacher will appear for them at the right time. It's a certainty. Does that help answer your question a little bit?
Yeah, I think that's a perfect answer, really.
So you
Okie
don't have
dokie.
to
Let's take a
break
quick
your.
look at the oracle then.
Yep.
So there's a sign on her kitchen wall that says, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but Latin, Temet Nose. Is that how to pronounce it, Brett?
Yeah. Temet Noske. I
Noske?
don't. I don't know exactly,
Temet
but
Noske?
yeah. Yep.
Temetnosce, which translates to Know Thyself, which is also the name of a course that I have. Check it out. Uh, Halls of Amenti, Inner Chamber in Egypt, and also Oracles of Delphi, Greece. Uh, Inside, or did you say outside on the pillars or something is written,
It
Brad,
was
know
outside. It was
thyself and you shall know
right.
outside where?
So in the halls of Amenti in Egypt, it was in
Mhm.
the inner chamber. So it was for people who had graduated to higher teachings, right? That was the message in the inner chamber. But in the oracles in Delphi, Greece, where the oracles were, it was on the outer pillars. It was written, "Know thyself, and you shall know the universe and the gods."
Mhm.
And that was the place,
Uh,
as we discussed, where leaders and generals and powerful people all made their way to Delphi, Greece, to uh, meet with the female oracles who would give them their visions and clairvoyance and what what they were to do next, right, with their campaigns or people or whatever. So
mhm.
powerful place in antiquity. So that's where the phrase comes from.
Radio. So I guess that's just to having that phrase on the wall there is to suggest that the place that Neo's in is equivalent to the Oracle at Delphi or
That's
the
right.
Halls of Amenti.
And
He's
they didn't even
literally at the Oracle for that,
right.
for the exact kind of advice that people would seek at those times.
Right. So the author is using a lot of Greek mythology / history to write the story. And she didn't even, or he or she didn't even try to change the name, right? You just straight up used the Oracle in the film
Mhm.
and Morpheus. So yeah, yeah. Deep stuff.
It was interesting that the Oracle said to Neo, sorry, kid, you got the gift, but it looks like you're waiting for something. Like he kind of went there wanting to be told, oh, yeah, you're the one. And he'd be like, yes, sweet. But that's not what happened. So, what's your take on that?
Yeah, it was a bit of reverse psychology, and I'm just going to drop a I'm going to drop a an atomic bomb here, but I'm not going to elaborate on it any further, but only to suggest that the Oracle is aware that everybody is the one. It's just a question of becoming aware of that fact. And I'll leave that right there. We'll keep moving. That was the point of that
Okay.
scene.
I'd probably be shocked if it was the first time I'd heard that. Okay, so now we move on to some events, right? So one of the key moments of the film, obviously, is the moment where Morpheus offers Neo the red pill or the blue pill. Morpheus says at some point, "Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself."
That's right.
As he offers the blue pill or the red pill. So basically, it's like you take one or take the other, but it's a permanent kind of thing, right? Take the blue pill, it's like go back to sleep, your cipher, don't worry about it, forget about it, next life maybe.
Right. And
Or
you
take
could
the red pill,
translate this. Oh, go ahead.
or take the red pill, and well, I suppose you find out what the Matrix is. So wouldn't this podcast be a moment like that? If you're saying, okay, well, you're here to be told what the Matrix is, that's pretty interesting, right?
Yeah. But what he, as he says, you can't be told, right? So we won't be able to tell you what it is. And this is perhaps one of the worst metaphors in the film, but there's not much, you can't do it in a much better way. And the point, what Morpheus is saying here is that you can't be told what it is. You have to see it for yourselves. In other words, it's not an intellectual knowing or concept in your mind, how you see the matrix, right? It's experiential. That's
Mm-hmm.
where truth really lies, in experiencing, right? And I go back to my orange analogy over and over again. If you've never eaten an orange before, you can write a PhD thesis on what the flavor of an orange is, but if you've never had one before, you're never gonna know what it tastes like, right? You got to taste it. That's an experience, and now you know what an orange tastes like. And it's the same idea with coming to see what the matrix is. It's experiential. Can't be told about it. So, the red pill analogy is going on like crazy for the past 20 years, right? And it's like, oh, that's a red pill. There's
Mm-hmm.
another red pill. He got red pill. And really, I call them pink pills because there's only one red pill. And it's not something that you can take, or words that somebody says to you. It arrives via, to use the Christian word, grace. It happens to you. You don't make it happen.
Hmm. Is that why you say it's a bad metaphor in the film? Because
Yeah,
Neo kind of like chooses it. He's like, yeah, I choose it.
the choosing part's right. It's just not the moments later you get the experience.
Oh, okay.
That's not how it usually works. Yeah, it's a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it's a choice. I want truth over everything else. All right.
Mm-hmm.
This is the Christian saying you gotta love you gotta hate your mother and father and children and everything else if you want to follow me. Right? That's kind of it's not a proper translation to say hate. The idea is that you choose the truth over everything else. That's the red pill.
Mm-hmm. We've written here the red pill represents the path to oneness, or you could
Mhm.
say it opens the door to oneness. And remember
Right.
that Neo is the anagram of one.
Right.
You
Yeah.
are the one.
Neo.
The
Right.
one.
Right.
It's interesting how when you watch it in early times, it's like you're the one, and those other people, they're not the one, right?
That's
You're the one. There's just one, and you're it, and they're not.
right. That's
But
how it's presented.
you
Right.
suggest that you're the one.
Yeah. An impossible idea to cognize in our present state, to say the
Okay.
least. And
So there's the
intellectualism will
scene
only take you
where
so far. Keep going.
Neo's unplugged, and there's this like human battery farm. We've written down fear slash loosh.
Yeah, a lot of
You want to
people.
comment there,
This
Brett?
is well, it's just a popular. If you hear people talk about it, this will be what people often will call the scene up, right? This idea that we're all, basically batteries slash power generators for the evil forces. And again, there's some amount of truth to this idea. It's just the only reason I wanted to include it here is so we could address it, right? But it's not the way most people portray it. And I think the best way to say it is to go back to the David Hawkins scale of consciousness and note that if you're below the 200 level on his scale, right, which was fear, shame, guilt, grief, apathy, pride, desire, right, all those lower energies, then you were unable to discern truth from falsehood. And when you're unable to do that, you give your power away. And so I think that's a better way to
Right.
look at this idea that there are, archons sucking our fear energy and, having orgies on it and so forth, which is how it's maybe more commonly presented by a lot of people. But effectively, the battery analogy works perfectly if you think, well, if we're all giving our power away to these beings that are telling us lies and keeping us in fear and judgment and grief and shame and guilt, then in a way they are taking our energy. They're taking our creative energy and using it to control us. So that in that way, it's a good analogy. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose the difference is in the film, it's like it appears that the humans have all been like enslaved and put in these pods and they're having their energy stolen. And the difference you draw is that the realization you have is, oh wow, we're all giving our power away. Right?
Right. Right. You're always free, right? To choose to choose anew, to think a new way, to act a new way. There's never nothing stops you from that. It's this patterning and repeating behavior, Groundhog Day behavior that keeps us locked in these loops. And this is what's going to be broken up over the next 5 or 10 years. If any of the channels are to be trusted, that's what's going to be shattering with all of us. But yeah, that's what's really happened is we've just gotten caught in this desire for familiarity, security, and safety. We're afraid to break out of this loop where we feel, safe and comfortable and content, but not free or happy like we really want to feel.
Okay.
Interesting
There's a
topic.
scene where Neo, has been brought into the real world and he says, why do my eyes hurt? And Morpheus says, because you've never used them. So you may be aware of the pineal gland. They call it the third eye. There's a quote in the Bible, Matthew chapter 6, lines 22 to 23 in the King James Version. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. We've written down, we have not used our spiritual eye. Do you want to comment on that, Brad, and especially
Right.
shed some light on this pineal gland and the spiritual eye, and also the biblical quote there?
Right. It's a great scene. And I remember when I first realized what it was saying, I was like, oh, yet another great metaphor. But yeah, that's it. Right. You can't this experience that arrives via grace, this red pill experience, right, enables something that has been disabled in present day humanity. And that is this notion of the third eye, right? If you see the Indians they put the red dot on their foreheads, right? They're representing this third eye, which is the pineal gland. And it's effectively in a state of disablement in 99% of us. But when that eye opens up, right, that's when you can see the matrix, so to speak. And none of us having operated with that in our, waking consciousness that we remember, it's like you've never used it before when it flicks on. And this is the idea that some people are clairvoyant and can see things that the average person can't see. That's the idea of this pineal gland third eye coming online again. There's a lot of conspiracy theory out there that fluoride is what calcifies the pineal gland. That's of course materialism explanation, but that's not it. It has a lot more to do with the Kundalini energy rising, which we're not going to talk about here tonight. But that's the idea: is that when all of the energies flow up into that brow chakra in a specific way, then that third eye opens up, and that's effectively, the red pill moment in tonight's analogy. Make sense?
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask, but I will not yet because I think we should wait until the end. I was going to say, how do you know if it's open or not? And you said, well, you can see the matrix, but I think we should wait until we get to the end where you say what the matrix is.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it won't make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
So there's a little quote here from Morpheus. We just labeled it deeper education. The matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. But when you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged, and many of them are so inured, so hopelessly dependent on the system that they will fight to protect it.
A great, great speech there. And it's perfectly uh, shows us exactly what's going on right now. And that is very simply that enough people aren't awake to the lies, the deceit, the corruption, at the level that's needed to get them to snap out of uh, the state that they're in right now. So in other words, they'll fight to protect the system that is enslaving them, unwittingly fight to protect them, right? They don't realize what they're doing, but they're in that state of slumber, if you will. And Morpheus hasn't gotten to them yet. And that's what we're up against. So if only 5% of the population sees this, they don't stand a chance, right? They're not going to get on any mainstream media channels or be popularized on the YouTube algorithm if what they're saying doesn't match up with what most of the people think they're experiencing and seeing. To say that they're our enemy is a little harsh. I understand why the screenwriter wrote it that way. They're not, we don't look at them as our enemy, but we look at them as not being friendly or in accordance with the way we're seeing things. So you have to kind of steer clear, in effect, and that's kind of how it happens, right? When they're in the matrix, right? They're staying out of the way of everybody else, letting them do their thing. So that's the idea there. Any comments?
I was just thinking how it says they'll fight to protect it. It's funny, even though this is just a kind of material thing, that you hear people advocate for taxation. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, yeah. We need roads
I
and
think we
fire
really should give away
stations.
our money. Yeah, it's
Right.
good. I reckon 45% of what I earn. Yeah, I reckon we should give it to the government. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
That's as blatant an example as you can get, right? Yeah, you can walk down to your town city hall tomorrow and have a public forum, and you'll probably be shouted off the platform.
Mhm,
You're going to lose that one within the general public.
mhm. We get the Cypher event. Cypher, the draw to become normal again. The people around you who want to pull you back into the matrix. You ever try to tell your friends about something
Yeah,
that seems to point in the right direction and they pull you back in?
for most people, again, there's never any absolute, right? This is the way it always goes for everybody, no matter what. But for most people, there are periods where you're just in this, whether it's a period of loneliness or sadness or frustration, that sometimes every now and then the idea will come, well, I wish I could just go back to where I was 10 years ago before I knew all this stuff, right? And you can just kind of go back to being normal. It feels, in a way, it feels better to you. This is kind of what's referred to as the dark night of the soul part of the spiritual journey. When you're
Mm,
just going through some hard times, maybe losing some friends, losing a job, losing some notoriety or your place in the community. This tends to happen for people who start going down the path. It's not anymore, or it's going to be less and less as time goes forward. But historically, this has been the case, and there's a real desire to sometimes to I just wish I could go to sleep again, and that the Cipher characters obviously represents that perfectly. A good addition
yep.
to the film.
And then the final event is where Neo defeats Agent Smith. I think he gets a shot, right? But then he kind of like revitalizes, gets up again, and he's seeing the Matrix. All right, so he's just seeing everything, and he starts to like fight Agent Smith with one arm. Just like it just moves by itself. It's got that Dragon Ball Z Goku Ultra Instinct. He doesn't even need to think about his moves. He just like automatically parries and then overcomes Agent Smith. And
Right.
what is that? What do you think that's symbolic of, Brad?
Well, I think it's symbolic of two things. It's a combination. One is releasing fear, and the other one is surrendering. Right. So this is surrendering the fight, the control that you think you have. There's a common phrase in more advanced spiritual traditions that suggests like it takes an enormous effort to be Matt or to be Brad, but it's effortless to be who you truly are. And that's essentially what's being portrayed in that scene. I think he's given up being Neo, and suddenly he's like, he realizes, why can't I just, this is effortless to be the one. And at that point he can, stop the bullets in midair and, examine them and drop them and, everything in that scene. That's it. That's spiritual, the word surrender. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they really captured that effortlessness. It's just the way he moves his hand. It's just he's like, this is so easy. Like the greatest evil that used to beat me all the time. I just effortlessly move my arm around and win.
Yeah, it's a joke. And that's maybe encapsulated in the Christian phrase, not my will, but thine. His will to beat the bad guys and to fight them off and to dodge the bullets and, all the rest is dropped. And suddenly something new has arisen, as it were. The one. It's a great scene. It should have, in my
Oh yeah.
opinion, I liked the other two Matrixes, enough just in terms of, production value and plot line and everything. But really, it should have ended there. It was meant to end there, but it was such a blockbuster, of course, that they had to make more money off of the series. But that should have been where the Matrix ended. That's technically the ending of the spiritual journey.
Certainly should not have come back for a fourth. I couldn't even make it through that one. Like second was okay, third one, yeah, and then fourth literally couldn't watch it.
Yeah, that's the way they do with all the series. I think they just get worse and worse and worse. Anyway, good stuff.
All right, so then we arrive at the crux.
The big reveal.
Brad talks about what the Matrix is.
Right. So, well, this is, very few people are going to want to agree with me on this. So this is I'm just kind of throwing out a bit of a bomb here, and we'll see how people
And
react
how
to
are
it.
we for time?
10 minutes. That's just
Cool.
about perfect.
Have a chat about it.
So yeah, and I wanted to get Matt's kind of organic responses to this. And Matt and I have gone down this path a little bit before, and I sensed a little bit of pushback from him. So we'll see what happens here. But this is, and for the record, these YouTube dedicated YouTube channels go to great lengths to try to describe to you what the Matrix is, and some of them get near it, I think, and do a pretty good job. But I'm going to just simplify it because I like to oversimplify things. And I'm going to tell you the Matrix is, very simply, what you think you know.
Ah.
That's it. We'll call it worldly knowledge is the Matrix. And I'll try to frame it
What'd you
in a
say?
very
Knowledge?
simple way.
Which
Worldly
knowledge?
knowledge,
Oh, worldly knowledge?
right? So
Right. What you
basically,
think you know.
what you've been taught, right, within the
Right.
education system. We're not going to go into the Prussian military and Rockefeller and all the rest, but all these things you've learned. So, in the Bible, we have a couple of verses that point to this idea, right? Where one of them is Jesus says, only those that become like a child shall be able to enter the kingdom of heaven. Right. So that doesn't make a lot of sense if you try to think of it in the mainstream way, which usually it's old people that die. They haven't become like a child. I mean, they become more childlike usually when they get up there in years, but that's not the idea, right? The idea, and some people say, oh, it means pure of heart. No, that's true in a sense. But the idea here is that when you were a child, the world wasn't, this realm wasn't a place of awe and wonder to you, right? You looked out the window, and you didn't know what anything was, right? It was just like, mommy, daddy, what's that? What's that? Oh, that's a tree, and that's a bird, and that's a cloud, and that's the sun. But as you start learning these things, the wonder and awe of it all starts to melt. So it's no longer this awe inspiring thing that you're experiencing. And that's why a lot of people, there's adrenaline junkies and there's adventure junkies and travel junkies, because they're looking for this new experience to re experience that wonder and awe that they had when they were a child. Make sense?
Oh yeah, I feel like I'm always chasing. I'm like that feeling that just went away. Like
Right.
I always feel like, it's got to be possible to get that back, right? Like surely somehow.
All right. That's right. This is it. So and it just gets worse, right? You say, oh, this is a deciduous cloud, and this only appears during certain, weather patterns, suggesting, that the moisture in the air and the barometer hits 68. You know what I mean? Like, it just gets the more you the more you educate yourself on the things of the world, the deeper you go into the matrix, right? So higher education is the ultimate in burying yourself in the matrix. You just keep learning more and more and more stuff about stuff. Yeah, with me?
Yeah. I definitely like I can. So if, for example, if you said something about like psychology or something like that, that seems really matrixy. Like getting in amongst all that abstraction and like labeling all these things with terms like disorders and stuff like that, and just putting concepts around a million things. That
Yeah,
seems like
just
your head's just like oy, 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 oy. Like a
it's never
massive
ending.
matrix
Yeah,
overlapped everything.
pick anything, right? It's never ending. It just keeps going and going. There's a phrase, right? The ignorance is bliss, right? Perhaps no truer words have been spoken, and it's
Hmm.
getting back to that state. It's what we all want. We want that experience of wonder and awe every moment, and it can return, right, with this letting go of our worldly knowledge. So now I'll go to what Matt and I had a little debate on one night, where I said, that thing, let's say a rock, you and I are looking at a rock, and fortunately we both speak English, so we can both say, yep, that's definitely a rock. But then I said to Matt, is it a rock? And remember how that conversation went?
Well, can I just say something before this?
Sure.
Uh, because I was gonna ask, like, well, like, are you saying like just knowledge of like what things are called or facts or just how things work, like the kind of Leonardo da Vinci or Archimedes or engineer kind of stuff? Are you saying that's the Matrix too?
That's it.
So even that is that are you saying just are you saying all it's all the Matrix?
That thing that you and I are looking at, that we agree that's called a
Hmm.
rock in English, right?
Hmm.
That thing isn't the matrix, but when you say you know what the thing is, right, with your worldly knowledge, that's the matrix. Because in the ultimate reality, that thing isn't a rock. You follow?
And so yeah, right. So so it's like yeah, next round of this discussion, right? So we've
Yeah.
had this a few times, just so everyone's
Mm-hmm.
aware.
Mm-hmm.
So what
Right.
your
In
suggestion
French,
is
it's
that the
in in French, it's a rocher, a rocher, right? In Spanish, it's a
Mhm,
roca. In German,
mhm.
it's a Felsen. Who's got it right?
So now from just talking to you for so long, I understand that you're getting at more than just there's different terms for it and stuff like that. But what you're
Right.
really saying is we try to say that the rock is like something that we have in our own imagination with a word attached to it, and that's what it is. But you're trying to you suggest that it's intrinsically with the one creator, right? That's your
Well,
position, is it?
you don't have to go. You don't have to go all the way to that point. But so the idea that you know what it is destroys the joy of this realm. and you
Hmm.
can just destroy it further and further. Oh, that's an igneous rock. No, that's granite. Oh no, that's a quartz rock. You know what I mean? You just keep destroying it more and more and more. You think, right? This world rewards you, right, financially with knowing everything there is to know about rocks, but you've actually further removed yourself from where you want to be. You're just deeper in the matrix.
Well, let me ask you this then. So, in Atlas Shrugged, like her Randian heroes, they're like engineers and they just like metallurgists, right? And they railway engineers and they have lots of knowledge, but they have this like extreme joy of it, and they're like extremely joyful people who are way more joyful than well anyone else around them. So, what do you make of that?
Well, they're passionate about what they're doing, which is perfectly good and fine, but they're in the matrix, right? They're deep in the matrix. And for a lot of people want to be deep in the matrix, right? That's part of this experience. So this
Maybe even
desire
that
to,
type of joy that she's describing is a low level of joy compared to what you're suggesting
yes, that's right.
it can exist.
That's right. Right. So the truth is, right? The truth is that you believed somebody that told you that was a rock, right? And it's as good a word as any word, right? Call it anything you want, but you
Hmm.
believed them. Someone taught you that thing is a rock. So you said, okay. And that thing floating across the sky is a cloud. You believed it. It doesn't make it true. It's just what you believed. But it's those
Right. It's kind of
beliefs.
like nothing, right? Like if I say that is a rock, that's actually just like I've said nothing at all in relation to the thing itself, right? Like
That's right.
I haven't impacted it. I haven't even experienced it. Nothing. It's like
You've,
just this layer of stuff that I've built around it that is literally nothing.
right. You've killed the magic. Right? And in metaphysics, they'll tell us that rocks are just as alive as humans are, right? It's different. They're a different type of consciousness, but they're still living consciousness, just not biologically living like we think of living. And the suggestion is, right, that those rocks can actually come alive to you in ways that are, can't be expressed in worldly human language, right? And the birds and the trees and the clouds can all come alive to you in new and amazing ways when you let go of the idea that you know what they are. And so the suggestion is you don't know that that's a rock. You just believe it. And the what your beliefs have told you rocks are limits your experience of rocks. Follow?
Hmm. And it's impossible, is it not, for you to tell me what the experience of rocks can be because that's experiential, right?
Exactly. Just like I can't tell
This
you what
sounds
an
like the
orange tastes
silliest
like.
thing ever, by the way. This is the silliest question ever.
Right? Right? Yeah, go to the orange juice example, right? That's a better one, right? Like if you've never tasted orange juice, how do you explain to me what orange juice tastes like? Right?
Right.
You could say, oh, it's citric acidy and it's sweet, but anyway, that could be, Coca-Cola could be that flavor, right? You're just
Hmm.
never going to get there in explaining what orange juice tastes like to me. So it's the same
Well,
idea with
I
the
can
rock.
relate around food, right? Because like there's all these like tons of people in the world. They have all this like knowledge about like nutrients and vitamins and stuff like that, and they're like there's have like a head full of knowledge, but they all have like disease about it,
Right?
right? They're like they have anxiety about it, and I'm like, man, I love caramel. Oh, caramel's so good. Oh, I love caramel. Oh, give me more caramel. And people are like, well, it's going to give a glucose spike because of the amount of insulin resistance that it's going to create. And oh, I got diabetes. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, do you know how much caramel I've eaten in my life? You know how many burgers I've eaten?
That's right.
So, it's interesting how all the knowledge, all the knowledge of it comes with disease.
That's right. Just tangles you up in the matrix. You get like the tentacles in the judgment thumbnail that I love so much. Right? You just get tangled up in it all.
Hmm.
It just gets worse and worse and worse too, right? It just gets more and more complicated. and just kind of get enmeshed and weaved into this matrix thing. And it's a never ending. You can make it go as long as you want, go into the depths of, places nobody's ever gone before.
Hmm.
It's fascinating. So
So,
what, go ahead.
so go ahead. No, you go.
Well, I was gonna close out here. We're definitely over an hour. So I
Well,
wanted to,
let me ask one more question then.
yeah, go
So,
ahead.
if you're like, oh, but I do know tons of random facts about stuff, well, what's your suggestion? That you like stop trying to accumulate more facts, or like just relax out of knowledge, or what? What is it?
Well, we haven't done this podcast yet. We'll do it eventually, but I'll just briefly touch it. Just suggest that we draw to ourselves the experience of our beliefs. So how's Abraham Hicks say it? We draw like and unto itself. The more you believe, too much, of caramel is going to give you a glucose spike. The more you're going to likely to experience that, right? Just to use your simple example. So the suggestion, of course, would be is to start using your worldly knowledge to only create experiences that you like and enjoy as best you can. Non-fearful experiences, right? If you want to keep
Hmm.
playing, if you want to keep playing in the matrix, then that would be the suggestion.
And
That
what if you don't want to keep playing in the Matrix? Like, what does that part look like?
well, that's what I'm going to close with here. So, and this isn't my advice. Comes from one of
Cool.
my what I consider my top 3 books of all time. The book was entitled "The Way of Mastery." It's a channeled book. Channels Yeshua or Jesus. It came out via the Shanti Cristo Foundation, probably in the late '90s. It was actually so. What it was it was 3 straight years of guidance, monthly guidance that students that were up near Seattle or Tacoma, Washington, where this woman channeled Yeshua or a man actually channeled Yeshua, and this came as monthly lessons. And what struck me as interesting after I read this, and I've read the book a few times, but first time I read it, it struck me that there was this heavy amount of information that came in the first 12 months. I mean, it was like nothing I had ever read or seen before, right? But I could feel it, right, resonating. Like, wow, this is some powerful stuff. But unlike a lot of other books, there's only one practice that was given for the first 12 months. The whole time, like, what should I do? I got to do something, right? What should I do? And Yeshua didn't give anything to do but one thing, and this was what he said for that first year. So my suggestion is that people, if they're interested in exiting the matrix in a more graceful way, this is what the guidance was, and it certainly did wonders for me. He said, every day, sit in your room for 5 minutes, look about you, and repeat the following: I don't know what a single thing is or what it is for. And then look about you for 5 minutes without thinking. That's a TV, that's a telephone, that's the air conditioner, that's the window, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Just to get rid of all of that and just realize you don't know what it really is or what it is for. That's it. Even though you're quite sure that a window is so you can see outside and the TV is so you can watch programs, right? That's the part that will be released with that type of intention. I don't know what a single thing is or what it is for. That was it. 1 full year. That was the only practice given. What do you say?
Hmm. Yeah, pretty interesting.
Yeah, it does
I
make a
mean,
lot
I'm
of
sitting here
sense.
trying to do it right now.
Yeah. And as you do it, those things that you were sure you knew what they were and what they were for will start to take on a new existence in your awareness. The
I
second,
can kind of sense that like how I said before, that all the knowledge comes with this, like, it seems to like conjure up disease. Like, I can just sense that all the knowledge like has this layer of like fear and judgment just coated all over it.
yeah, that's kind of like the glue, right? That holds it all together. Right. But it's, some people, you tell this to people and they go, well, wait, but how, then I couldn't do anything. I wouldn't know how to brush my teeth, to take a shower and cook my food. Like none of that happens, right? You don't become this helpless blob that doesn't know anything, right? It isn't like that. It's basically, well, not basically, it's fundamentally a new recognition. And
Right.
it arrives. You can't make it happen. It happens to you. And, if I can give a sense of it, to help people that may take that advice or be willing to try this, is that you start to become aware that everything is a relationship. You're in a have a relationship with the chair you're sitting on right now. Right? You're completely unaware of that relationship, but there is a relationship right between your body and the chair, and your computer screen and your eyes. Right? There's a relationship, and this idea starts to percolate. Let's say, can't put it into words beyond that, but that, in my mind, is the most effortless, graceful way to work your way out of the matrix, which I suggest is worldly knowledge. A rock is not really a rock. What do you think, Matt? Mind blowing? Frustrating? Inspiring? All of the above.
I'd better not say thought provoking.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Thought suppressing?
Relaxing, right?
Yeah. There's a tremendous amount of effortlessness in it all. Yeah, I wanted to also, I mentioned at the top of the podcast about the, what I think are pretty popular theories going around now. And I like them. I think they're, well thought out and intelligent, and they make a lot of sense. These simulation or hologram theories that a lot of people are using right now. And like I said, they make a lot of sense from a number of different perspectives. But I think one of the things that's missing in most of these theories is, who's generating it. And, obviously these theories tend to lean in the direction of there's a powerful beings or entities or forces that are, creating this simulation, and we're trapped in it, right? That's probably the most dominant and popular way to look at it. And it's certainly a reasonable way to look at things. If most people that are mentioning this obviously are aware of certain conspiracies and corruption in the world. So all of it, again, adds up and makes a lot of sense. But what I want to suggest here is that, the bad guys, whoever you want to call them, are merely working hard to perpetuate it by keeping you believing in their power. And that's how it seems like they are the ones generating the simulation. But if we look at it from the context of the film, we can see that Neo, the one, right, comes out of it without defeating the bad guys, right? He's when he, after his scene, which I'll talk about in a second here with Trinity, after the scene where he's basically dead and then comes back to life, right? All of a sudden, he sees right through the simulation, right? He sees the code, and he's catching the bullets and, looking at them in slow motion and on and on and on. So what has happened there, and I'll talk about this in a minute, is that he now recognizes that he was creating the simulation, not the bad guys. They were just trying to maintain him creating the simulation that gave them power. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's almost the biggest trick, right? To make it seem like there's some sort of evil that we have to fight against. And by defeating it, then we earn our freedom or oneness.
Right, right. If we could only get all the bad guys rounded up and get rid of them, then the simulation would be over. That's the general idea, just as you said.
Right.
And that smacks right in the face of metaphysics and what I think the ultimate message was in the film, The Matrix. And I kind of just wanted to close out. I know we've mentioned a few of these points before about the Trinity scene, but I think it's important. We go all the way back and think about what I mentioned about the Trinity, love, wisdom, and power, is the energies, if you will, of the Trinity. We can see that, the whole film, basically, the love story between Neo and Trinity doesn't really materialize, right? There's too much fighting and bullet dodging going on, right? And, so it's kind of this thing that's in the background. And of course, there's, towards the end there, Neo appears to die, or, it looks like Agent Smith finally, tore him up and finished him off. And he's just laying there. And, of course, Trinity is screaming, "No, you can't die," and on and on and on. She says, "I love you." And that was the thing that was missing from Neo. That's why he was losing to all the agents, right? He was using only the wisdom that he had gathered from Morpheus throughout the film, trying to control and fight the bad guys. And he was missing that love element, right, which makes him, without a balance of the two, then power is lost. And so when he gets that infusion from Trinity, then he sits back up and he's laughing at the agents at that point, right? And that's where it's effortless, and he's just laughing and catching the bullets, and he destroys them from inside out without even batting an eyelash. Make sense?
Right. And in our realm, like this love energy that Trinity embodies, like how do we recognize that, and what's that all about?
Well, it's our natural true nature, nothing but, right? But we have been brainwashed slash educated to emit energies opposite of and in opposition to that basic love energy. And this word love, by the way, can't be defined, really totally undefinable. There's romantic love, there's parental love, familial love, and then but you also love books and foods and drinks and movies and all the rest, right? There's all these different kinds of love. So to even attempt to define it is an impossibility. But we know it because we feel good, and that's the signal that you're emanating that energy. And it's a matter of balancing that out with the wisdom you've gathered here, right, in your lifetime. You can't, if you just run around being loving, eventually, you're going to get shot in a gang war, or, step off a cliff or whatever, right? And not know any better. You don't have any wisdom. So that's the symbology of the ending, I think, is this harmonious balance. And really what it is, what it represents, if you look at the metaphysical journey, is it represents surrender. Yeah, this need to I know everything and I can control everything, which is how Neo played out, the movie to that point. And this suddenly, he doesn't need to know anything. He doesn't need to control everything. He just sees it all, right? It's evident to him what's happening. And that, the Christians will say, let go and let God. Like someone like Abraham Hicks will say, you got to get out of the way. In the higher metaphysical traditions, they call it surrender. There's a lot of different ways to say those things, but that's usually where the big opening comes, is in that final surrender, and that's what happens to Neo in that scene. Yeah.
Sure. Maybe I just have one more question. And would you say that love is like self-generated, or would you say love is felt from the external, or both, or neither?
Both. Definitely not neither.
Okay.
The idea. This is an idea that I've gotten from some Jesus/Yeshua channeled materials over the years. The idea that he says is the more that you give, the more that you get, not necessarily from the ones you give them to, but we can say from the universe or from God. So a lot of people spend their whole lives trying to give all their love to one person or a few people. And if that person doesn't reciprocate, it actually tears them apart and makes them less loving to everyone else around them. And over time, it eats them up. But the suggestion is that you give it freely, regardless of who gives it back. And as you do that, you're offered more of it to give. You have more opportunities to spread it around. And what it really means is to have fun, to be playful, to enjoy yourself. Right? That's love. That's the heart-based awareness. It's one and the same. That makes sense?
Sure.
But obviously, we can't do that in a 90-minute feature-length Hollywood film. So we have to make the symbology more basic and obvious.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I did a pretty good job.
Oh, it's brilliant. Yeah, it's brilliant what they did there. I couldn't have come up with a better movie script. Even now, I couldn't write a better one, knowing everything I know about the Matrix. It's near perfect. A near perfect metaphor of the spiritual journey, as we said at the top.
I think that probably draws us to a conclusion.
Indeed, it does. It's all I got. That's more than enough.
I'll just mention take your power back. I think it's a really good point to mention it.
Yeah, yeah.
We have this cool course called Take Your Power Back. Remember we mentioned before the battery farm? Like they're giving their power away. Like all the people are giving their power away. You know,
Right.
all these people are like in charge, right? You look out of the government, they're like in charge. And you're like, damn, government, right? And like, these companies, institutions, got all the power, right? That all came about because we gave our power away, right? We let them hook us up to a battery and suck all our power out, right? We're giving it away.
Right, right.
So take your power back is about a spiritual shift that brings your power back to you, and you stop giving it away, and you're more powerful to unplug from the
Right.
matrix.
That's right. Then you can use it to build the life of your dreams. That's right.
And follow
Instead of
your
giving it
bliss
to
is
them.
a phrase we use in the course.
Precisely. That is everybody's goal, whether they're aware of it or not.
Yeah, it's on the mindblowenzone.com. If you haven't visited our website, you should definitely visit the website. We got a really cool website over there. Like, really great way to navigate all the episodes. You'll be blown away by that site, I reckon. Take a look.
Yeah, you did a great job coding it, Matt. Beautiful.
Oh, I
Love it.
appreciate that. Wasn't fishing for that, but just stating it. It is
Stating
really,
facts.
really nice.
Fantastic.
All right. Well, thanks, Brad, for all that info. Appreciate it very much.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, everybody, for listening. That was a deep one tonight. Take it all in stride, consider it, and if it feels right to you, by all means, drop us a comment or question, or start that practice that Yeshua recommended. I highly recommend it. It did wonders for me. Just takes time and patience. There you have it. All right. Thanks, Matt.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
See you
Brad.
on the next
Thanks, everyone.
episode.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.